Welcome back again. You know, it's Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern on the East Coast.
And
And
you
through
know
the
what that
portal,
means.
we have Dre and Dave bringing to you guys the Outer Dimensions podcast. But for the rest of September, we're doing something a little different. Dre, why don't you tell them what we're doing?
I appreciate that on several levels. Dave reached out. Oh, I should say Dave. I reached out to Dave, and I'd asked Dave. I said, "Hey, can we postpone all our videos that we had planned and do Hispanic Heritage right?" And he said, "Dude, two thumbs up. Let's make it happen." So I went that night, and then over the course of a few days, and I built like a list of movies we had to watch. So I broke them into to three categories with a potential fourth. Hey, Sentry, thank you. uh,
There you go. Well, yeah, we got a bit of a chat here, so let's just roll it
I know.
off.
So go. Let's go to the chat, and we'll come back to me
Yeah,
on what I gotta say.
we got Rolando saying hola. We got Collect Dre, you're in two places at once. Well, no, we're three places at once. Everyone.
I typed Ola, so it
Yep.
came up three times.
Yeah, so because we're actually simulcasting on all three channels, Dave's Dimension, the
The collector
Collector
safe
Safe
space.
Space, of course, and the Outer Dimensions podcast. So when we type something in, it gets sent three times. So don't worry, there's not a ripple in the multiverse, not yet, anyways. We got Cobweb saying, "What's up, my dudes?" Millennium saying, "Buenos noches, good night." And we got Rolando, we got everyone, we got Duffman, and of course, Century TMC saying, "Hey, Big Dave and Dre, what's up, fellas? Congrats on the new career opportunities, bro. All the best."
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yep. I think
So
that's more directed towards you with your
yeah,
new jobby coming through.
that's in 2 weeks, folks. I'll be changing up a little bit, but we'll still be doing our content, and we're gonna still be going live on Wednesdays. So
Yep.
don't worry about
And
that.
there's even a Stream Elements bot, which I still need to update. That's off of my channel. That's showing up there. So
All
don't pay
right.
any attention to it.
So let me go back to what I was saying. So today we decided to break this category into four potential ones. So I broke it into classics. Now, when I say classics, these aren't like typical movies that most people should have seen growing up. And when I say that, mostly people in the Gen X, would have seen these movies because they were either shown to us in school. If you were Hispanic, they made you watch it at home, and or if you had an interest and you were old enough to appreciate it, you watched it when you were growing up. And then we have those. That's the classics category. We have animated films. Now, obviously, Disney did very well in the last couple years, and it's ranked two of those in their highest. Actually, two of those are. And when we get into that, I'll get into that next when we do those next week. And then we did horror. Now, there are no specific action or sci-fi Spanish movies that I could really find, and believe you me, Spanish language film ones. So today it's just to add this to Coco was great, and I love Encanto. Um, so, but this is the Hispanic heritage, folks. Obviously, I represent obviously Puerto Rico. My daughter represents Puerto Rico as well. My other daughter represents Cuba, and my son represents Puerto Rico. So, but if you are of Spanish descent, gracias para venir aquí, and let's get the show on the road. So let's get into our first movie, which I think everybody has heard of this movie, has seen this movie, and if you have not, I would be ridiculously surprised. Dave, let's go into that first slide.
And honestly, before we even pull it up, I mean, this is a historic movie. I mean, forget the Elvis Presley movie that came out. I mean, this
Which
was
is
like,
good.
yeah, it was good, but to me, like a music biopic, I think this set the standard personally. But that's
Oh, it
just
does.
me.
No, I agree with you. La Bamba, folks.
1987.
1987.
Yep. July 24th, 1987. Producer Luis Valdez, and also the same, he was the writer too. But look at that damn cast right there. Lou Diamond Phillips, Esai Morales. I mean, I think they were both in the next movie that we're going to be
No,
talking about
Eastside.
afterwards.
No, only
Nope.
Lou Diamond Phillips was in the next one. Eastside Morales, though, if
Yes.
you guys have not seen him recently, he
Mhm.
was actually the villain in the newest Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One and Part Two movie.
I have not seen that yet.
I actually have to put it on the drive for you. I found it.
But Rosanna DeSato, I believe she was the one who played Richie Valens' mother.
Yes,
And of course, we got Joey
everybody knows him.
Pantalano as the manager, the guy kind of like stewarding Richie Valens.
He is probably one of all these actors and these actors
Oh yeah,
are ridiculously famous. And but when you look at the money, this is where it gets interesting
oh yes,
because of I always like to see the rates of inflation and how things change, and I get to see the graphs and everything. So the movie's budget was only $6.5 million. Again, I say only, but look at what that would
1987.
have been for 1987. That's a big budget, because the average movie budgets we've seen from any movies in the
Mm-hmm.
mid to early 80s, we were looking at like 4 million, maybe 5.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like bigger films that at like the best, like Star Wars, would have been like 10 million. And that's because you were paying for more of the effects and everything else because that was still new. But it's 17.5 million now.
Yeah,
So I mean, you're looking at 3 times, a
and I
little
want to
close to
say
about 3 times the inflation.
Lou Diamond had appeared in a handful of movies because he was in Young Guns 2 with Emilio and Kiefer Sullivan and all of them. But I think this was like his first like lead role. I think for the most part, to be honest, at the
Honestly,
time.
I think for you, when you think about it, you're correct. I couldn't see anything that didn't prove that it wasn't. So yeah, he is.
Hey, what's up, Colin?
Yeah, there was a
Uh,
Hispanic Barbie in the Barbie movie. I did not watch the movie yet. It's on my list of movies I have to watch before I start
coincidentally,
working.
since you mentioned that, there's a young girl who appears in that movie. She also appeared in was it Endgame?
Hmm.
Played young Gamora, and she also happens to be in a certain TV show on Disney Plus right now, playing a young Ahsoka. Little
So
tidbit right there.
look at
But
that.
but Cobb is like, I watched La Bamba. I don't know how many. Dude, I still, if it came on TV or if it was on a streaming service right now, I would still watch it because to me, I mean, for that time, they did a very good storytelling for the story of Richie Valens. Because I mean, excuse me, I mean they touched on a little bit of racism. They touched on, like on another channel we do the mental health streams, and we talk about how society itself tends to be a little bit more like, especially with the machismo, the masculinity, where you have to be tough all the time, and they definitely touched on that. Like Richie's brother,
Oh yeah,
who
Isai.
yeah, Isai Morales, like he's trying to be the obligatory tough guy, and he finally does break down. And we didn't really see a whole lot of that back then. I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, so much strength in this that I mean, it's one of those movies you'll never get tired of watching because, he had to deal with racism because he liked Caucasian girl, and there's pushback with that. I mean, it's just one of those, it's timeless. And even back then, I figure like most of the money was probably spent not necessarily on the actors, but maybe on, props, clothing, sets, you know. I mean, to get that vintage stuff, even back then, probably cost a pretty penny too, you
And the
know.
rights to tell the story because you
Oh
got to
yeah,
remember his family was
oh yeah,
still alive at the time,
oh
much like
yes,
Selena. So and Selena
yep.
did not make this list, folks. Just so you know, Selena did not make this list. It would have, but I
Hey,
had to be strategic.
what's up, William? And also, I mean, it was funny that you mentioned Selena because I'm looking at the poster and I'm just thinking like, take a look at the red lettering, the
Same
font,
thing.
almost identical. So it's almost like, wait a minute, did Selena kind of like just take the La Bamba poster and just kind of edit it to
And
to their needs?
and again, it's like,
Almost like subliminal.
oh yeah, it's almost like boom, like it dialed in. Now, obviously, the box office for this, um, it did extremely well at the time. We have to look at this now. At the time, we don't get international box office numbers
No,
because
it's
I
1987.
so let me also clarify this because I know there's a lot of YouTubers out there that have said that, oh, Rotten Tomatoes this, Rotten Tomatoes that. Um, I don't use them as the only aggregator site.
No,
Dave knows I go to like 17 different websites to get my
every week
information.
Dre does his research every week. He doesn't rely on one source. He weighs it on multiple sources. Plus, as far as those reports, because those that don't know, long story short, there was apparently a story coming out of people reporting that Rotten Tomatoes favored, or some reviewers of Rotten Tomatoes favored a couple movies over the past, 6 or so years. We don't know if that's isolated or if it's all over the place, but just so you know, we do check other sites. So if there's any criticism as to whether our numbers are accurate or not, that's up to you. If you everyone's entitled to their opinions, but that's why Dre does his math. He checks all these different sites because we are truly fair and balanced. Forget Fox News. We're the real fair and balanced
Yeah, I truly,
casters here.
just so you know, it takes me to do a cheat sheet. One cheat sheet could take me up to 4 to 5 hours to do because I'm researching. If it's 3 movies,
Oh yeah,
I'm researching the movie, looking at movie posters, I'm looking at the data, crunching numbers, just so you guys understand that this is fun for me to do. And it's a very big part of what we do on the channel. It's to separate us from the other channels that are out there. So, I don't trust Rotten Tomatoes. I don't trust Metacritic. I don't trust IGN. But I feel that their numbers, I know that their numbers are skewed and I accept that. But that's why IMDb, which is more like a database, I can trust their numbers. At least 40% of me trust their numbers,
yeah.
versus me trusting Rotten Tomatoes like 2%. But I digress. This back then, movies would have grossed for a top-selling movie, $50 million is a lot of money, and that usually warrants, like in movie terms, warrants a sequel.
And for something that's not an action movie, it was.
Yes.
I mean, and at the time, we didn't really have biopics during the 80s. That really wasn't a thing we had. I mean, we still had the craze where you had movies that heavily featured music, like your Footloose, Eddie and the Cruisers, films like that. Flashdance. They were very music centric, but this was all about Richie Valens. This is all.
We didn't get stuff like Oliver Stone, like Oliver Stone's level stuff, like till after the 90s.
And I mean, much respect. I mean, this song La Bamba came back and blew the charts away for years to come, thanks to Los Lobos. Mm-hmm. And I mean, those guys, they still rip up the stage, man.
It's a great song.
I mean, they kind of threw their own little taste on it, They brought it back to the masses. I mean, I'm sure the Richie Valens family got some residuals, at least I would hope. But I don't know how the masters were back then.
Yeah, it's a different. I look. There's a bunch of stuff that his brother has done. Because his brother helped write a book, did edit his biography, and which I actually remember reading his biography when I worked for Barnes and Noble years ago. And that was just interesting. So, just as an aside, to talk about the little bit of this movie from a Hispanic's point of view, growing up as a Latino in California, which I did not do. I grew up in New York. He grew up as a Latino in California in a predominantly well-to-do neighborhood. So that's why he fell in love with the Caucasian girl, Donna. I had a girl and Donna was her name, and that song was huge for because you gotta remember, his music didn't appeal to Hispanics. He wanted to appeal to Americans. But then Joey Pants, his manager in the movie, was like, you need to make music that appeals to both. And that's how you can start seeing the transition of a lot of Hispanic singers doing American covers or transitioning their music to translate it into English. Because you have like Luis Fonsi, like the Despacito, you can go into like Jennifer Lopez, Christina Aguilera, God Menudo, Ricky Martin. I can go down the whole list. So, but obviously this is based on a real event, and it's called
Mm-hmm.
the name of the book and the article was called "The Day the Music Died."
Yep.
And this movie, the year in '88, it won a bunch of awards. Was not nominated for an Oscar, which I was
Which
surprised.
is bullshit.
100% bullshit. And it got a Golden Globe, which to me,
And
a Golden Globe is as good as an Oscar for in the
yeah,
'80s.
because I mean, Golden Globes. I mean, even today, I mean, you get films that deserve to be an Oscar winner. They get a Golden Globe, but they don't get the Oscar. Because I mean, to me, I find that the Golden Globes seem to be, at least even back in the '80s, they were still, it was still well received. It was more of an honor. Plus, the Academy, which runs the Oscars, the Motion Picture Academy, they seem to be kind of like the you know I hate to say this, I'm not trying to be offensive, but this is just my personal opinion. The stuck up upper crust, the preppies, if you will. Back in high school, they were the preps. They were the ones that thought that their excrement did not stink. Those were the types. And Golden Globes, they always kind of recognize like the real writers, the real people behind everything. It's just like, I mean, look at the Grammys. Grammys didn't recognize heavy metal music and other forms of music not until like the mid to late 90s. I mean, so it is what it is. But I mean, to me, this is one of the best. I mean, as me not being anyone of Hispanic or Latino descent and not having any of that in my family, to me, this is one of the best movies of all time because it didn't, it wasn't, because you get some movies that feels like it's trying to shove certain themes down your throats. This wasn't one of them. This was this was the natural story of a boy who, he loved music, he loved playing music, and against the odds, like he rose up, he was able to buy his mother a brand new house, completely furnished and everything. He was able to, help his older brother kind of like, yeah, go for your dreams of being an artist. Like he of that time of the fit, because that was I want to say around the 50s, like
Yeah,
or
it was the
mid
mid
50s. I want to say,
mid
yeah,
50s,
it was around
55, 50s.
mid 50s. And for someone of non Caucasian to one to make it and to be able to provide for his family at that point in time, when segregation was still a very heavy thing there back then. There wasn't any Hispanic Caucasian segregation, but you still had
Another
a
one
lot of
was
racism, a
California.
lot of hates. You
California
know,
had it. There was
yeah.
tons.
But I mean, it elevated things on such a level. Let's take a look at the what else Dre has on a cheat sheet here about Robert Ebert. Like the film in screenplay writing, this is a good small movie, sweet and sentimental about a kid who never really got a chance to show his stuff. The best things in it are the most unexpected things. The portraits of everyday life, of a loving mother, of a brother who loves and resents him, of a kid growing up and tasting fame and leaving everyone standing around at his funeral shocked that his life ended just as it seemed to be beginning. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, those who may not be familiar, back in the 80s and even some of the 90s, Robert Ebert and Gene Siskel, Chicago Sun-Times and the Tribune, if I'm remembering it correctly, they were the TV. They had their own TV show where it was called At the Movies, and these were the guys who told you what movies were good and what movies weren't. They were like the top dogs. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we get Rotten Tomatoes and all these other aggregates. These guys were kind of like the ones who everyone kind of looked for, like, hey, is this going to be a good movie? Should we go see this movie? They were kind of the voices. I did not always agree with them. More specifically, Robert Ebert, because I thought half the time he was kind of a blowhard and kind of two-dimensional in some of his reviews, but that's just me. But for him to come out and say all this about this movie it's a bit mind-blowing, to be honest.
They were the Gordon Ramsay of the movie world. If you have to
Yeah, they
equate
were.
anything, folks,
They
because
were
they
the
really
they were the Gordon
they set
Ramsay
the
and the
tone.
Simon Cowell.
Yeah, they set the tone for everything in the 80s. I remember like when they did like Rambo, they would shit on Rambo all
Oh
day
yeah.
long. They would shit on Rambo, they shit on RoboCop. But then it was like,
Yeah.
but Pretty Woman comes out and they're like, "Oh, a great coming of age tale for Julia Roberts." And I'm like, "What? She's a prostitute.
Yeah,
Don't try to
yeah, yeah.
sugarcoat this."
She's selling herself and she hooks up with Richard Gere,
It's like
which I don't know if it was before or after the whole hamster deal, but that's another story.
that might, yeah, we won't bring that up. But again, this movie is number one on this list. It was pretty much in the top 25 movies to show,
Well.
to show people on Hispanic Heritage Month. Let's
And
go to the next one. This is obviously the next one gonna be my favorite, but you continue with what you're saying.
oh well, I mean, here we go. Lou Diamond back again. And
Go ahead.
go ahead. Well, no,
No, okay.
I was just gonna say we brought up Selena, which also happened to co-star, someone who I'm sorry, I always call him Sir Edward because I think he should be knighted because he's such a great actor. Edward James Olmos. I watched this movie in school so many times. In school, they played it for us all the time. They played it in English class, and I even had a math teacher play it for us once in grade school.
All I gotta say is this movie.
Mm-hmm.
As a teacher, it resonates on so many levels. As a teacher, it resonates. I remember I told my wife about this movie. She remembers watching it when she was younger. And I watched this a few years ago, and then I rewatched it this past weekend, and it brings about so many emotions in me because you see the teacher go through his own level of, like, he left the school that was the high performing school with the students that were the best of the best, but he leaves to go to a school where his students are mostly Hispanic, that are what we would call now a Title I school. And this movie is definitely made my top 5 movies of all time. It's made my movies you need to see in your lifetime. I think it's that serious, and it's people are like, "Oh well, it's dated." It's not. It's dated.
If you look at the story, it's not.
It's not.
The story still carries.
And Colin just said it. Look at it, like Dangerous Minds.
No,
Dangerous Minds.
I'm going to compare this to. I'm going to compare this to another movie of that era. Lean on Me.
Lean on Me is another one. Morgan Freeman.
Who he leaves the school that he helps, like everything's all like the kids are respectful, everyone's getting along, it's nice and beautiful, and he goes back to East Side High. I mean, that's kind of the same kind of thing here.
The only difference was one was a teacher that left and became a principal. Mm-hmm. This one is a teacher that stays being a teacher, and retires and actually passes away as a teacher. Obviously, again, Ramon Menendez, not related to the Menendez brothers, folks. Please do not think that.
Oh God, no.
I know some people thought that. Do? Some people online did. So, and obviously Ramon Menendez and Tom Muska, they wrote this movie. Obviously, Edward James Olmos, Miami Vice, Battlestar Galactica, Blade Runner. He's in everything.
Anything that he's been in, he's been total badass. He kills it. I mean, he really talks in Blade Runner.
I love the quote. And I know my 1s, my 2s, and my 3s. That was such a great line.
But I mean, like, look at the first movie we did, La Bamba, and now we go Stand and Deliver. A year later, because this is 88, and that was 87. So I think that this might have been the next project for Lou Diamond.
He literally. So when you look at,
he goes from the wholesome, family boy to being like, the tough, the
like, thug that doesn't want to be a thug. He's thug life without wanting to be thug life. But I loved his character because he was the kid that was super smart, but he couldn't show it. Again, culturally relevant, folks.
He had the potential. He had the potential, but obviously, so if you show your smarts, you're always afraid you're going to get picked on or ostracized in some shape or form.
Let me mention this. Everybody, I know there's people in this chat that come from Italian, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, other backgrounds.
Okay.
Italians and Puerto Ricans, or I should say Italians and Hispanics, we get along very well because our cultures are quite similar. But I do know that I grew up with a lot of Italians, and if you were smart, but your dad wasn't so smart, that your dad was a construction worker and your mom was a housewife, but you were the smart kid. If you acted too smart, your cousins and your father would make fun, your brothers would make fun of you. The same thing in Hispanic culture. It was like a negative trope. I hate to say it, and you saw that with Lou Diamond Phillips' character in this film, that he was the kid that had to be tough and be hard and smoke cigarettes and be in the gang and be all hard, but he was really super intelligent, but he had to hide it until he found the right person to bring it out of him. And as any good teacher, myself included, I would say I'm a good teacher because I have students that I've gotten positive reviews from. This is a teacher I would want to emulate because of the good he did. And this film didn't even gross a lot of money. Look at the budget. Look at the budget for the time. Not even $2 million. Not even $2 million.
It made its money back and then some, though.
But see, and this is one of those movies that I'll tell you now, it wasn't until what I posted in the audience reactions in December of 2011, Stand and Deliver was deemed culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant by the United States Library of Congress and selected for preservation in the National Film Registry. Folks, do you know how important that is? That to get in that registry is like damn near impossible. And like Roots is in there. Just so you understand, culturally relevant movies, Roots is in there. Stand and Deliver is in there.
Like it says there, for preservation, which means the movie is preserved for all of time, as well as technology and society will allow it to. I mean, a copy of that movie is there. There are probably a couple copies, to be perfectly honest.
The script,
I mean, it's considered art, basically. It's basically considered art.
It's on the level of importance of our Constitution, folks. Just to put you into understanding of how culturally relevant this film is. I've cried the few times I've watched it because there are things that tug at your heartstrings when you watch this movie. It's big.
Well, for me, it hits because I had a teacher like that. I was in 6th grade. I had this teacher named David Slowski. We'll never forget this guy because back then I was a bit of a smartass. I know, shocking, right?
Shocking.
I was a bit of a smartass, but I had something happen that I still to this day don't know exactly how I did it. I was usually like a 70, 75 kind of average, school average back then in grade school. And for some reason, I jumped up the next semester really high. And teacher pulls me out, and because I made a smart ass remark, he pulls me out in the hallway, and he says, "Would you cut the shit out?" He says, "You proved yourself." He threw me up against the locker, said, "Cut your shit out." Because he basically told me I was going to be going into a higher level class next year. But that's what this movie reminds me. Every time I see it, I think of Mr. Slowski. I think of this teacher who, they weren't really allowed to throw people against lockers even back then. But, it was kind of like, listen, you have potential, and those are the kind of teachers that you don't always see or that don't get recognition. They're the ones that, they're spending, probably a third or even half their paychecks in some cases buying their own school supplies so that they can teach their students, so they can provide education and help these students become what they really are meant to be. And that's what this movie's about. I mean, you even have down here, Stand and Deliver pulls off the unlikely feat of making math class the stuff of underdog drama and pays rousing tribute to the real-life inspirational figure in the bargain. I mean, it's like we said, we have amazing actors in here. Edward James Olmos. And it's a little hilarious. We get Lou Diamond in here and the woman who played his mother in the first movie, Rosanna
Yes,
D'Estato.
yeah, I
So,
forgot
and
what she
Andy
played in here.
Garcia. I mean,
He
come
was
on, freaking Andy Garcia.
he was the school superintendent
Yep.
for the school. Oh no, he was the ETS, the test takers people.
Yeah.
He was like, and he was because Andy Garcia is obviously of Cuban descent, and a lot of people hated on him in this movie because of the fact that he was like coming at Edward James Olmos' character, who was obviously Mexican, and you're looking at two immigrant cultures,
Yeah.
even though they could have been born and raised in America.
You needed to have a bad guy in there. I mean, come on.
It was a great film though.
Yeah.
I'm looking for something. Give me a second. I'm looking for something. Because there is a film.
Okay. Cobb says, pretty sure I know a movie you're not going to get to. Won't say my guess. Have it end up being a spoiler.
Okay, so I just found the name of the movie. All right, so there is a film that we didn't mention on this list that I was really, really. I watched it recently, as in like 6 months ago, and I rewatched it again like about 2 weeks ago. And I will say this: it could have made this list, and it would have been like a sweep. John Leguizamo did a movie on Netflix in 2020 called Critical Thinking, which was about a Hispanic Puerto Rican teacher who was doing a class on teaching the problem children critical thinking skills through chess. And it was a great film. I was like, a lot of people never heard of it. Like, I told my wife about it. She's like, I've never heard of it. It was a Netflix like independent film. Netflix picked it up. If you guys can watch it, it's called Critical Thinking. It is very similar to Stand and Deliver. He goes out of his way to help his kids go into tournaments because the school won't. Basically, what modern day teachers go through, that the school system won't pay for things, and he had to pay for out of pocket. Kids were struggling through dealing with gangs and drug addiction, and the parents not wanting to support them. And it's such a great film, and it focuses a lot more on the kids than on the teacher. But the teacher dynamic and is great for the show. Let's go to the next one. Now, obviously, why did I go to this one?
Badass movie alert.
First off, Dave said it best. Badass movie.
I mean,
badass movie. Badass movie.
Not for nothing. I really hate that I don't own it anymore. I actually had El Mariachi on DVD.
So let's go into this because people don't know this. So El Mariachi is was filmed in 1992, and this is a trilogy series, folks. So El Mariachi did not star Antonio Banderas, but Robert Rodriguez and Bill Borden wrote all three of the films. So Once Upon a Time in Mexico, which we got literally 11 years later, and then we got El Mariachi, and Desperado. So what happened? The El Mariachi is obviously the story of a guy who falls in love. His love interest is killed. The person is similar to like his brother, but his brother's like a narco. If you guys don't know what a narco is, it's obviously a person that was a leader in the pharmaceutical industry that is run by illegal means that's out of this country. So I think that's the safest way I could say it without you getting mad at us.
Wasn't there a series called Narcos? I mean,
yes, there was.
The crowd might know that one.
I figured. So obviously, Robert Rodriguez had gotten his directorial debut doing El Mariachi, and then he got other roles, and he's done several things. He's worked on, for all you Star Wars fans, he's worked on Star Wars.
Yes,
he's worked on Mandalorian episodes. He's worked on
horror films. I mean, Robert Rodriguez also did the next movie after this one we talk about.
Yes, he did. So, which is going to be funny because it's themed. But
it kind of is. We have double appearances all over this place. But
and it's actually for this cheat sheet and the horror cheat sheet. There's a lot of cross contamination of similarities. I'm just gonna put it out there, folks, because
Oh
there
yes,
was a very small pool, but the pool is actually Academy Award winners.
but I mean,
So this obviously isn't. So, but I
take
just
a
wanted
look
to.
at the damn cast. We get Antonio Banderas. We get Selma Hayek, and that was her debut.
Yes, it was.
And I'm sorry, she still looks the same.
At 54 years old, folks, can I just say her and Halle Berry. I mean,
Oh no, don't
women
be
that are in their
man.
damn near in their 60s looking that good. I'm just, oh my god, just saying.
Ah,
I just saw pictures on my hike today,
Ming
and I was
Na
like,
Wei.
holy
Ming Na
Ming Na
Wei.
Wen. Yeah, she's another one too. Like,
Ooh.
just they're blessed. Fountain of
But
youth.
to get back, let's get back. Quentin Tarantino Q is in this movie, and like him and what people don't realize, him and Robert Rodriguez, they're like best buds, man. Outside
They're
of
thick as
movies, like
thieves, man.
I mean, they're us, but they're directors.
Exactly. Yeah, they're us. They're just directors. It's hilarious. It's like I'm Robert Rodriguez and Davis Quentin Tarantino. That's just
And
literally how you look
I
at it.
love when Tarantino's trying to be like all cool and say dos cerveza. I'm like, mother.
Dos cervezas.
And then he drinks it, and of course Cheech Marin's the one who's serving it. And I mean, come on, you got Cheech in here, man. Cheech Marin, Steve Buscemi. I mean, just killing. Like the you got the character actors, the guys who they can play almost any kind of character. In Cheech Marin, I'm like, this is like the first time I really saw him playing kind of a bad guy, a tough guy
Yeah,
too.
he was the bartender. I loved him. What's in the guitar case? My guitar. Are you sure? There's a guy running around here with a lot of guns. I just love the line, folks. That's how you know I've seen this movie that recently. That the lines are fresh in my brain. And actually, the villain, the main villain of the series, that
Yeah,
started in El Mariachi, who is the same actor, Joaquin de Alameda. He is the same actor from the first one, from El Mariachi into the second one, and he even has some flashback sequences in Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
yeah.
Because
And
obviously, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, we
he's
changed.
also been in Fast and the Furious. I mean, he's been everywhere.
He's in Fast 10, Part 1.
Well,
He's the villain in that one.
well, he's not the villain, but he's a villain that is flashback to Fast 6, technically.
Yes, technically. But
So I'm just gonna say that.
now let's go. Let's look at this numbers, folks, because you know I like crunching the numbers. The $7 million budget. Again, this is Robert Rodriguez, so expect him to be. He's the Hispanic Michael Bay. There's always explosions and gunfights.
No. He's better.
Okay. Oh, no, he's better.
No,
he's better than Michael Bay.
I mean, if Robert Rodriguez took over the Transformers, man,
dude, you saw what he did. You saw what he did with Predators. That's all I'm gonna say. You saw what he did with Predators.
So
You've seen what he's done in Star Wars.
You can't call him Michael Bay because that's an insult.
It's a basis for comparison only. So $7 million budget, $14 million today. So literally double from 95 to now. Runtime for the movie is 105 minutes. Again, not
double box office numbers. You double it right there.
Yeah, he doubles his box office numbers too, 58 million. And now again, at the time, $50 million. And this is true numbers for Hollywood. I've spoken to actors on this channel before, off backstage, and I've asked them, said, hey, I'm curious, what was the number? They were like, well, back in the day, it was like 50. You had to $50 million domestic. And then it was 150 international. Once you hit those numbers, that's what warranted a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
So $58 million today, it would be 117 million. Obviously, like I said, this is the second film. Now, a lot of people don't realize that the 90s, in the mid 90s in America, we were getting a lot of films internationally brought over. A lot of like stuff that was not seen or filmed in the 80s, early 90s was starting to now get big box office breaks. El Mariachi was never debuted in America, but it was shown on TV. And the same actor that played El Mariachi, Antonio's character, is one of the sidekick characters in the sequel.
Yep.
So if you haven't watched it, it's a damn good film. It stays very well with the time. Antonio Banderas had been on soap operas. My mom, when she was alive, I remember she told me he had done an episode of like General Hospital and I didn't know that. And it's in his. If you go through, it's in there. He was
Yep.
on soap operas. He was on a lot of things. So he was a relative unknown as well.
But
And that
this
was the cool thing.
launched him into the
Yeah,
stratosphere. Like he did movies like Assassins with Sylvester Stallone. Of course, he would later take on Zorro with Anthony Hopkins, and of course, Selma Hayek was in those with him too.
no,
I
Salma
want to
Hayek
say
was in and Assassins. That was Julianne Moore.
no, but in Zorro,
Zorro was Catherine Zeta-Jones.
okay, I'm sorry,
It's all
but
right.
no,
It's all right.
but like he's just like he blew up. He did so many different movies. I mean, yeah, he is definitely an action hero because I mean, hell, he was even in what Expendables 3.
Yes, he was in Expendables 3.
Pretty
I am still
hilariously.
very young at heart. And I love his accent. I think he is. I mean, he's obviously married to Melanie Griffith. If you guys didn't know, they do have children together.
Mm,
He has obviously Millennium said it best. People very well know him for Puss in Boots, and I mean the last Puss in Boots movie, the Final Wish, that was by far. I cried watching that movie. Rory and I watched it. It is a fantastic movie, probably the best in all that Shrek universe stuff. If you are into that level, and I will eventually once the SAG. Well, no, we can talk about that because the movie came out last year. We
yeah,
can talk about that film because that's a film I 100% back. It's a great family film. But again, Ebert gave this movie only 2 out of 4 stars, saying that it was he wrote, "What happens looks terrific." Now, if he could harness the technical facility to a screenplay that's more story than setup, he might have really had something. Now, here's the problem. That is proof positive that's a person seeing the sequel before they saw the first one. Now,
yes.
if you've watched El Mariachi, you got all the backstory you needed because El Mariachi sets up Desperado as Desperado sets up Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Yeah,
Because if you
it's
watch
kind
the
of like
third one before
watching.
seeing,
It's like okay, there's a new TV show that comes out, and I start watching it episode 3 or 4. I don't get the initial plot. I don't get the initial jump, and that's why I said I myself was never a fan of Ebert. Gene Siskel, he would always like, oh, if there's a movie, he made sure he saw the original content. But I mean, El Mariachi, like even this one, I mean, look at the budget. It's kind of low budget if you really think about like the amount of artillery. I mean, the gun, the just the sheer action itself. I mean, and to complain about the story is insane. I mean, it's insane in a good way, guys. I
it's
mean,
true to the drama that you would see in
yeah,
a telenovela. And you have to understand, Robert Rodriguez is Mexican American
or
who grew up with the telenovela storyline. For those of you that do not know, telenovelas are not just the same as an American soap opera. That is an insult. That's like insulting Japanese dramas and saying they're the same as soap operas. They are not.
no, it's
Telenovelas are story driven over many episodes, possibly even over series. And this is exactly that setup. The first movie, if you follow it like Star Wars, it's that you needed to see Star
mhm.
Wars to understand all. You need to see episode 4 to see episode 5 to see episode 6.
Yeah, you don't start with Empire. You got to watch New Hope first to get the
Exactly.
gist of it. One of the scenes in Desperado that always like sticks out, and it was the first time I saw that kind of scene happen. When they're like having auditions for recruits, and the one kid goes in, like his ankle
Very
is
good.
like completely destroyed. His ankle or his knee or his like his leg is just completely destroyed, and they just tell him to kind of like heal it, like bandage it up, and yeah, you're yeah, he's good. But like this kid gets gets freaking destroyed, and he's like, okay, yeah, he's you know, I mean, stuff like that, and just I don't know. It was a different kind of action movie. We didn't have like people backing, like didn't have like an army backing someone up. It wasn't like Schwarzenegger showing up with machine guns. You just had this guy that you never saw before who he looks like he's a musician, but he's a man on a mission. It was kind of like, it was almost akin to like an old Bronson movie or something, but with a different take on it. And to me, that after seeing Desperado, and then I heard that it was a sequel. After watching it, I found out right away it was a sequel. I was like, okay, I gotta find the original. And I found out the name was El Mariachi. And we had a store called Borders Books and Music, where like you could order movies that were not available in the US. And I remember getting it, watched it at home. Of course, it was all Spanish. So I'm reading the subtitles. I probably watched it about 3 or 4 times when I first got it.
It's a solid film.
Oh yeah, it is. And I mean, for Ebert to say, to kind of like, crap on the screenplay. I mean, what does he really know?
Well, again, you can't tell a story like you said. You're jumping in at the middle where a lot of the action is going to happen. It's the Empire. Mm-hmm. This is literally the bridge movie that if you watch Once Upon a Time in Mexico and you didn't see the first 2 films, you're completely lost on why there's like issues with the relationship between him and Salma Hayek's character in Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Mm-hmm. Mexico. You don't understand why the CIA is trying to go after Alameda's character, who's now long dead, and why his business is still in. Like, why is Johnny Depp involved? It's like there's so many factors that people don't understand, and you need to watch the films in their entirety, all 3 of them, and they're great. And the other thing I want to say about Robert Rodriguez that I love about his stuff is that his films are all, and this is a theme for Hispanic heritage, and I'm saying this, it's great to see representation, because he did not just go to like, oh, I'm going to cast an American that speaks really good Spanish. No, he went to Mexican-born characters. He went to a Mexican female that had done nothing.
We are forgetting
based on her looks.
We're forgetting someone that was in Desperado.
Who?
Danny
Trejo was in the first one. He was in the last one.
No, he was in Desperado, though. He was in the second one.
Where was he? Was he in the bar? No, he wasn't, because he wasn't listed on the film. I looked him up. No, he wasn't, because this is all the cast right here. He wasn't. He was in Once Upon a Time in Mexico. That's the line where Johnny Depp goes up to him and says, "Are you a Mexican or a Mexicant?" And then he goes, "I'm a Mexican." That's from 2003. Danny Trejo did other stuff, and he did Machete, which did not make this list. But if I did do an action thing, Machete would have made the cut. I just watched that one too, and that one's it's a spoof on like all these kind of movies. But you can see this movie did get positive reviews from other people.
He was in Desperado.
He was background. I'm
not going to try and pronounce it because I'm sure I'm going to get it wrong. The name is spelled Navajas. Navajas. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he had shorter hair, because I remember this like him with the knives and stuff.
That's what I'll see how to pronounce the name, folks. I do stand to be corrected. I'm one of those people. Oh, Navajas. Yeah, he was. Now that I think on, he was in this movie. He was in the bar scene. You're right.
Leave it up to the Caucasian. I'm sorry.
Leave it up to Don't they get to come and correct everything as Latinos do? Damn it, Jim. Now I digress. This movie is one of those classic films. It did not really go too far. It did make. I mean, it was surprised that it went over 11.
It took us 11 years to get a friggin' sequel.
Yeah, the finality of it. Anyway,
yeah.
And I like that him and Tarantino very much follow a similar mindset for their movies. There's a weave of the characters and actors, kind of
a shared universe.
There's a shared multiverse is we throw that term around a lot. We did it with Stephen King, where we know there's a legitimate multiverse. We need to
do a multiverse of Robert Rodriguez and multiverse of Tarantino. I mean,
with Tarantino, honestly, you really could. And there has been, I did see one. Someone loosely trying to take like the Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill characters and all throw them into, and Hateful Eight and Django Unchained, and You could literally explain why timelines would make sense. So don't doubt it. Now let's
Parallel
go to the
universes,
last
man.
film, which Rex, you did say it. It's the last one, and there's a okay. So let me explain why this made the cut. In the top 25 movies for Hispanic heritage, this was number 23 or 24 on the list. And I laughed because I was like, I watched this movie and I did not think anything of it. Neither of these kids I felt like were relevant to me. But let me explain why. If you look down here, it clearly says franchise has created 4 films
And a
and a
Netflix
Netflix TV series. Not to mention
a
that
reboot.
a reboot is supposed to be which is now probably on pause, but the girl Alexa Vega did her own thing with Lava Girl, spawned off a sequel thing that Robert Rodriguez did. He had an executive producer role with, and Shark Boy, Taylor Lautner. I mean, their careers blew up. So obviously,
she also had a music career, and she appeared in other movies, even though she got older. There's a movie called I'm blinking on it. I can't remember the title right now, but I'll mention it to you later.
So
it was like
obviously,
Repo genetic opera.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, she was the daughter in there.
That's right, she was.
Yeah.
Oh shit, I didn't think about that. So let's go to the producer credits here. Obviously, Robert Rodriguez and Elizabeth Avelan. She hasn't really done a lot. She's stayed within the Spy Kids kind of family, but she hasn't really done. I didn't look deeper into her because I just didn't feel like it. I felt like Robert Rodriguez was the one I wanted to focus on. Obviously, Antonio Banderas is the father. Carla Gugino, who we know her from several films that she's been in. She's the one. We could talk about her from Sin City. She's been in several action films, several sci-fi films.
The Watchmen. I mean, she's done so much.
She has. Now
she's done a lot
plays
of TV show too.
She was on NCIS. She was on a few other shows. I know she was on NCIS. I just can't remember anything else. Alexa Vega, obviously, she's the older daughter. Daryl Sabera is the son, and he's also, I didn't know, half Mexican. Did not know that. Danny Trejo plays the uncle.
Yes.
He is the brother to. Yeah, he's crazy. I love him. Love his character. Alan Cumming is the villain. Terry Hatcher, I forgot. I think she was a villain in this movie. Cheech Marin,
villainess.
Yeah, Cheech Marin was a supervisor. Robert Patrick was a villain as well. Tony Shalhoub, folks, if you don't know, watch Monk. I will tell you now, you can watch everything else he's done. Monk is amazing. 13 Ghosts, which is amazing.
But we get Mike Judge in here, the creator of Beavis and Butthead, the voice of Beavis and Butthead, because I think he was he just appearing in it just like a favor, or did he do some writing or some
he was appearing in the film. He is the sidekick to Alan Cumming's character. I know that he even kind of cracks like a little laugh like Beavis, like in the movie at one point. And I kind of remember.
He betrayed Antonio Banderas and Carla because he was part of their organization.
And then he jumped sides to join Alan Cumming. Yeah. So obviously this film. Now I didn't do this on purpose
because it's kind of like a kid's take on True Lies, almost, if you will.
I wouldn't say True Lies. It's more of a kid's take on James Bond.
Well, kids finding out that their parents were spies. Kids finding out that their parents were spies, kind of like how Jamie Lee found out that Arnold was a spy. Because this is where I get the little angle from. Yeah,
I see your point. I thought more Thunderbirds. And for those of you guys, I'm really old when I say that. Thunderbirds, if you guys don't know, was a puppet show on in the 60s and 70s. Marionettes. Yeah, they still creep me out. But they were They
Think of
were
Team
like
America. If
Team
you guys ever
America,
saw
but
Team America,
without the dick jokes. Team America without the dick jokes and the sex. So that's exactly what Thunderbirds was, and that's kind of the I got. And they did do a live action remake of Thunderbirds, folks.
yeah,
So
we don't talk about
that
that.
we don't talk about that one because it was absolutely terrible. But I digress. $35 million. There wasn't a change in the financials when I looked at it. 23 years, you figured there
I
would have
mean,
been. It's not
yeah,
much. Or 22 years. There wasn't much of a. It was like 35 million was like 42 million dollars. It was a difference of like $7 million, just so you didn't understand the numbers, and $147.9 million in the box office. Again, the target audience for this was kids. If you don't understand, Robert Rodriguez's films were very adult oriented. He was going for something a little bit more family friendly. This set in the realm. Now, obviously, I'm going to tell you, if you see the sequel films, you don't get a lack of star power. You get
no,
Sylvester Stallone as a villain.
you get
You get
more.
you
It
get
just brought more people into it.
now I know Carla and Antonio step away in the third film and fourth film, and it's the kids in the George Lopez is in the second one, third and fourth one, and he plays a villain in I think one of them as
He
well.
was also
So,
in the Shark Boy Lava Girl movie too.
yes, he was. So you just so you can see, he does have crossover, and I know Taylor Lautner shows up in I think the third or fourth movie as well.
Yeah, 'cause
So
isn't it like by that time of the fourth movie, it was like their kids?
yeah, it was. I think the fourth movie was like they were because they were teenagers when this started.
Or no, they were like recruiting or helping new spy
They were they
kids.
were they were dealing with new recruits that were
Yeah,
coming in because I think she was still too young to have her own kids. It would have been like three. The kid would have been like 2 or 3 years old if she
not
did
in my
because
neighborhood.
well, true, but
Just saying.
um, now obviously the Netflix television series is currently on, and you can see the other films on Netflix.
Yes.
Um, I had this film laying around on a hard drive and I watched it again, and I wouldn't watch it again for me personally because it's not the target audience was meant for kids. Now Ebert,
Hmm.
here's what's funny.
Oh,
First film.
I was about to bring up Ebert, but go ahead.
So no, go ahead. You can do this one because I know
Well,
you.
no,
Roger Ebert. He
he's
and I
my
have
arch
words too.
nemesis.
He really
Uh,
is. May he rest in
I
peace.
mean,
May he rest in peace.
seriously, this guy had it out for Robert Rodriguez. I'm convinced of that now because he called this movie a 3.5 out of 4 stars. I mean,
A
I don't know.
treasure.
That's like a B minus or something. I don't know.
No, 3.5 out of 4 for him. That's like
Yeah,
an A minus in his book.
but I mean, here he goes. Robert Ebert, Chicago Sun Times gave it a 3.5 or out of 4 and called it a treasure. He wrote, "Movies like Spy Kids are so rare." So he was shitting on Robert with Desperado, and then he said, "Oh, I wonder if he even knew if this was a Robert Rodriguez movie because he seemed to kind of crap on him for the most part." Families are often reduced to attending scatological, dumber and dumbest movies like See Spot Run, movies that teach vulgarity as a value. Spy Kids is an intelligent, upbeat, happy movie that is not about the comedy of embarrassments, that does not have anybody rolling around in dog poop, that would rather find out what it can accomplish than what it can get away with. Now, I don't know. That's a bit like he is. I mean, he's complimenting it, but to me, it still sounds like
It's tongue in
he,
cheek.
he,
It's a tongue in cheek
he's
compliment.
trying to reach. It's like he was
Now,
trying to reach in a way. But I mean, Robert Rodriguez did Spy Kids series because he wanted movies that his kids could actually go see. He
yes,
wanted movies that other families can go out and see, and they did. I mean, like you said, it spawned. We had 4 movies in a Netflix series. There was toys. There was lines of toys and merchandising that went out there, and I mean, he showed that I can do action movies, I can do horror movies, I can do this, I can do that, I can do anything.
and
It
he
shows a director that has scope.
like Tarantino, because if you look
Yeah.
at Tarantino, who's his contemporary,
Hmm.
his modern day contemporary, you see Tarantino did From
I
Dusk
mean,
Till Dawn.
they teamed up for a double feature.
Yes, they
Planet
did.
Terror
And Grindhouse, the
and Death
Grindhouse,
the Death Proof.
yeah,
Death
which are
Proof
two
and Planet
great
Terror, yep.
films. And but let me go. There's a couple of things I want to address. Scatological. Scatological is sort of like I'm going to use a very lewd reference. It's like taking spaghetti and throwing it against the wall and seeing what sticks. That's kind of that's like the euphemism that he was using, or the word he wanted to say. Now, as far as the movie Blood In, Blood Out, very funny you mentioned that, Cobb, because Colin, EC Collecting, made the same comment to us in the group chat. Said, "Oh, so Blood In, Blood Out's going to be there." No, and there's a reason why. Blood In, Blood Out, as great as a film as it is not what I think I would want to show my girls and my son, for the reason that it promotes gang violence. I am a parent first and foremost. And even if I didn't have kids and I'm an uncle, I wouldn't want my kids to see a movie that promotes gang violence. Now, if they were older, like my teenage daughter, my teenage son, I would sit them down and let them watch it, explaining to them what the movie's about. Because you can compare, what was it, New Jack City, what was it, God, what was the other one? Straight Outta Compton, um, you know, what was the one with Tupac, the last Tupac film he did?
The cop movie with him and
Not the cop.
Belushi? Okay.
No.
He
Above
did
the
a
rim. Above the
okay.
rim.
Above the
You
rim?
know, you
Because
can you can look at films like that were hyper gang violence, but they were surrounding the culture of the gang versus like what it was to be in that lifestyle and be Latino. Yes, does Blood In Blood Out rank in a Hispanic for most Hispanics to see and non-Hispanics? Of course, because again, that was at a time where we didn't have that sort of movie didn't come out. Nah, on this list is just a movie I watched. Yeah. It was one of those. I think everybody has seen this movie. As I grew up watching Blood In, Blood Out. Um, you know, this is live. Welcome.
Welcome, group.
But yeah, I would say this is one of those things that you could have thrown this on there. Um, if I was doing a different set of movies, like movies you should see before you die, which again, if you guys want us to do a list of like the top 5 movies you should see before you die, you know, we'll
I
we'll
think
do a
it's a good
list.
depiction of what happens when you get into the life. Great teaching tool.
In Colin, you're 100% correct, but I would rather show that to my 14 and 18-year-olds than have my 3-year-old, 14-year-old, and 18-year-old sit in the same room to watch a movie like that. I think that that's a great coming of age, tale into the life. Because when we look at those movies, like I would show Stand and Deliver, La Bamba, those are movies I would show my kids because those are good cultural, like Frida Kahlo, which is Salma Hayek,
Mm-hmm.
got an Academy Award nomination. Evita, Antonio Banderas, that's another one I would show. And people are like, well, why? Evita is a musical. Yes, but it was actually relevant to cultural ties in what was going on in Mexico at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Evita has a lot of Madonna actually is not Mexican, not Hispanic, but culturally, that film defined a lot of what Antonio Banderas' career and a lot of other people's careers. So why I think certain movies like that can make the cut. Oh yeah, movies I shouldn't be watching. I shouldn't have seen RoboCop. I told Dave knows this, and he and I talked about this. I saw 2 movies that have scarred me for life. I saw it.
Grease.
I saw it, the original, when I should not have seen it, and my parents knew I was terrified of clowns. And I saw when I was a nice, prime 12-year-old boy, I went to the theaters with my parents to go see Basic Instinct. I had no business at 12 years old sitting in that theater with my mom and my dad watching Basic Instinct.
Listen, my dad rented movies on the weekends. Like he would pick up like 5 or 6 movies from like Blockbuster or somewhere, and it would be movies like Sleepaway Camp, Friday the 13th, Basic Instinct. he would like trust me. I was exposed to all that at a very young age. So yeah,
And it's different. Listen, folks, I'm gonna tell you now. In this day and age where kids talk a lot about what they watch, like I think I even told Dave, I said my teenage daughter, and this is when Squid Games had come out. No, I told Dave this, and
still
I know I
haven't watched
told.
that.
So I told my daughter, like I had seen Squid Games, like an episode of it, and I was like, okay, I'll watch it later, and I never came back to it. She went to a sleepover at a friend's house for a couple days, like for 2 days. Comes
Ruh-roh.
back and she starts talking about, oh yeah, well I'm doing the Squid Games thing, and I was like, whoa, what the hell are you talking about, Squid Games? So then I went and rewatched the entire thing, and I went to my wife. I was like, babe, do you know what our daughter was watching when she was at this girl's house? And she said, no. Squid Games. This is some battle royale level shit. You can't be
Now,
watching
n-
this games
now,
where people are dying for money.
now,
Mm-mm.
because you mentioned RoboCop, you know what I have to show.
I'll buy that for $1.
The Crow is just RoboCop for goths.
I know
Fight
Dave.
me.
Dave,
Come on,
Dave wants
come on.
everybody to fight him on that. If you're in the group chat, you need to fight him on that because it's hilarious. Because JJ was like flamed. JJ tried to flame him, and Dave was like, "No, he shut that shit down." But yeah, there are levels of films, and again, actually, you know what, Dave? Maybe we should do this next on our list of movies for next year. Maybe we should do movies that we shouldn't have watched when we were kids. I think there's a
Well, that's
level
just
of
every
films
movie I've practically
I
watched.
shouldn't have been watching Fuzzy Scramble PPV as a youngster either. Dude, we all had the
Oh,
boxes.
trust me. There's movies I could start listing right now, but you
Oh, yeah,
know,
Dave and I've talked about it several times over. All the movies we shouldn't have watched when we were kids.
there's movies you and I have not discussed that are on my list that definitely would not. If I had kids, I would definitely not let them watch.
Oh, and there's movies that my wife and I've talked about that you know, I have. There's a certain trepidation that things like I won't watch The Boys. For everybody that knows, I love The Boys. I will never watch The Boys, and Dave knows this until everybody in the house is asleep. 'Cause I told my wife about that one episode that I watched, and she was like,
He's got to pour himself a bottle of milk first.
a bottle of milk. I had to, I had to literally wait till everybody's asleep in the house, midnight, watch it on the couch. And if my daughter woke up, the littlest one, I had to like pause it, put her back to sleep because I cannot watch those films
Well,
with.
especially this last season. I
Oh yeah, you
mean,
couldn't watch even season 2 or season 1 with that. But then there's other films and even movies like you can't watch Game of Thrones with kids. Like people are like, oh, it's got dragons. Do we
no.
not know what the Lannister family genealogy?
Well, I mean, come on.
You
The
know,
first season with
I mean,
with
just think Khal Drogo
with
and
Momoa, you know, just
so there's so much that you
oh
can't,
yeah,
and
there's a lot you can't do in there.
and I as a dad, you
Littlefinger.
know, facts. I mean, and if people get mad at me a lot too. They're like, "Well, you're a hypocrite. That you say that." I'm like, "No, I'm not a hypocrite. I'm
Listen, I
real."
drink Gatorade and know things. Okay.
Exactly. But I thought this was a good list to start us off with for Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yes.
Um, I think that for those of you that don't that are not Hispanic and celebrate it, that's awesome. I don't hate on this. I feel that there's over the last 40 years, um, there's been a very big growth in our culture and a widespread exception within our culture to have more movies, more TV shows.
Mhm.
I mean, if you look at Netflix is a perfect example of how
Of
they've
like
taken like
categorizing everything. So if you're looking for certain genre or certain elements or even just certain actors, you know, it literally you can break things down, you can organize it however you want. So if you're looking for action, you can get action. But if you're looking for action that maybe has, let's say, Lou Diamond Phillips, he's done a lot of action movies. He's done a lot of sci-fi too.
yeah,
I
he's been
mean,
in a lot.
you know, Stargate Universe he was on. He was kind of a prick on that one too. But I
He
mean,
was
there's
also
a
in
lot
the
of stuff. What?
Aquaman movie, the original Aquaman TV series, that pilot episode. He was in there and Ving Rhames. They both were in there.
Yeah.
People don't
So, I
know
mean,
that, but he was.
I mean, there's, Netflix, you can definitely organize things. Like if you are a big fan of like anything that's like Sentai oriented, there's a lot of stuff on there. I mean, there's a lot of adaptations. If you like stuff that's anime, you can break it down whichever way you want. So it's
But
definitely,
but I'm sorry to cut you off. I want to bring it so you guys can understand, not just from my perspective, but this is for someone like Dave, that even if you don't understand the culture, it's something I want people to appreciate the culture. And I know Dave does, because he and I've talked about it several times over. And it's not because I'm one of his best friends. It's just that's the reality of it. Like you can look at Money Heist, which is a great drama on Netflix, which is filmed and done in Mexico. You can look at Bird Box Barcelona and say, wow, this is a great film, which is an adaptation and a sequel to Bird Box. You can look at all these other, like, you can look at Guillermo del Toro and appreciate his non-American works.
now next week we're
And
doing what are we doing? We're doing
we're doing animated
the
films.
animated films next week. Okay.
Yes. So if you guys wanted to, a lot of people do ask us on the cheat sheets, like, hey, I want to know the films I can watch with you guys. I'll give you guys the films for next week's list so you guys can keep up with us. Because I do know the animated films are easy to find, and I can tell you where to watch them. So if you have Disney Plus, Coco and Encanto are both on Disney Plus. So you can watch both those films. And I think they're a true amazing. Like Coco, I think I've cried. Like I've watched Coco and cried, and
So
Encanto is great. If you have not watched
I haven't yet to
Encanto,
watch this. I've not watched
so
it yet. So I'm
so
going to be
you
doing
can
my homework this weekend.
so Disney Plus, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. We're gonna go into this whole reason why this movie is on here. If you don't know, you should know. This
Because
movie,
Dre loves Miles Morales.
and his last name is Hispanic and he's Puerto Rican, so I'm gonna go with it. No, but there's more to it. This was actually number 18 on the list of movies you showed during Hispanic Heritage Month. This was like number 2. Now, Book of Life is Guillermo del Toro. Great film. You should watch this, and you can watch this on HBO, or sorry, on Max. It is on Max for you to watch. So you can watch 2 on Disney Plus, 1 on Max, and Into the Spider-Verse, I think, is on Vudu.
Yeah, well, you can definitely purchase it on there. They may actually have a bundle going on because we have Across the Spider-Verse is now available in digital, so you can probably pick up both movies in a nice bundle deal right now.
For like 20
Um,
bucks. So
Now, this is a Sony movie. If you have Stars, it may be available on Stars. I'm going to have to look that up.
yeah, I don't have Stars, so I can't tell you if it's on
Yeah.
there. But so those are the 4 movies. If you guys want to watch them with us next week,
Yep.
and we're gonna leave the horror one because I don't know if he's still in here. Colin, EC Collecting, is going to be our second guest ever on the show in
Yes,
2
he is.
weeks. And we are going to, I have to now do my homework and expand my horror list because there was a couple of movies that didn't make the cut, but now they'll have to make the cut now.
Now, also, our boy Colin, every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central. Now, that is Central, so that's going to be 9 o'clock Eastern. He has his show, That Effin' Figures podcast with EC Collecting. And in fact, tonight, he's going to have T3 Collects and the Hot Father himself, JJ, a.k.a. Joker's Funhouse, John Joker himself. So you guys don't want to miss that at 9 p.m. Eastern on EC Collecting channel on YouTube. That is That Effin' Figures podcast. So please don't miss it out. Don't miss out on that. Join Colin and all the insanity that will ensue later tonight and every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern on EC Collecting YouTube channel. So please go and follow and subscribe if you're not already.
Yes, he's a hell of he's a brother to both of us. He's amazing and just an all around great dude. And the fact that he's starting off with those 2 very good home run hitters, in the YouTube toy collecting community, definitely check them out. Collins is doing great things. And like I said, we're gonna have him on here with us,
Mhm.
and we're gonna be. And just so you guys know, we're going from 7 till 9 o'clock that day. So it's gonna be a 2 hour run.
Oh, it's gonna be a
We're
boiler.
we're gonna talk. And I sent Colin the list already. He owns two of the films in the horror on
Mhm.
the horror list, and we're gonna go into a little bit more. So I have to find him some more films if he has them, and he's gonna give his perspective because he does have a very good knowledge and grasp of
Yep.
horror films. So
Oh
I
yeah.
would love to hear what his take is besides myself and Dave's.
He's a like those that don't know, he is a toy collector, but he is heavy into NECA and horror. I mean, he's got
Predators.
what he's well, I was gonna say he's got a life-size gremlin.
Yes, he does.
I mean, he's that into horror, and I mean, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to have all three of us go from our time all the way until he starts. So yeah, it's gonna be insane.
Yeah, so
It's
it's
gonna
gonna
be
be
a long
fun.
one.
It's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I
I
when he
I might
recommended it.
have to order because like when I get home, it's like okay, I'm getting the stream ready. That day, I might just have to order a sub or a pizza or something to have that waiting for me when I'm home, so I can just get everything ready because that's gonna be because I'll be eating dinner after we're done here. So
I might mute the camera a few times when I'm eating on stream. Well, I'll try to eat like I rushed to eat today before I got on stream today, and didn't even realize the time. So again, folks,
yep,
this is Hispanic Heritage Month with obviously the Outer Dimension. I do want to mention we do have our charity event that's going to be coming up in November. It's November 18th
yep.
is the stream. I was talking with some of the guys about stuff. I'm in the process of collecting the items still.
Yep,
We're going
and
to do
and
5
that charity is
wheels.
going to benefit that benefits a charity that Colin actually brought up to us.
Exactly. So Colin reached out to me personally, said, "Hey,
Yep.
I want to put." He's like, "I know you deal with it, having hard to find healthy meals for kids in your schools. You're a teacher. Is there anything we can do to fix this?" And I I did my research. We found an organization that their YouTube numbers are 3,500. They're low numbers, but they're very much looking to work with people in other communities to try to get the message out because only 5 states out of the 50 are providing healthy meals as alternatives to the typical cafeteria food, and they're wanting to just try to supply more. So thank you, nerd affiliated Hollywood.
Hollywood's in
So,
the house.
but uh, Cobb, I understand. Thank you for coming in here with us. Um, the charity is very near and dear to my heart and to my wife's heart. None of the money is going into our pockets at all. This is going to be donated directly to, and you have the option to donate directly to them. I have provided links in the group chat, but I'll be posting the links starting in October 1st. So you will have from October 1st till November 17th to get your donations in. We will need a proof of the donation, meaning you will have to either if you donate directly to us, or if you donate directly to them, we
Mhm.
need to have like a screenshot. You can blank out your information if it has it in there, but just give us like something that we have, and you could enter into one or all 5 wheels. Now, the
Mhm.
larger your donation, the more wheels you get entered into. So we're going to keep it very real. The donations are not small. We have a $175 Darth Maul mask that Millennium Workshop created, which looks amazing. You all seen it.
I
We
mean,
have a
basically one
Star
of a kind.
exactly. It's a one of one. We have a Star Wars hot toy to be determined by John Joker, who's donating that. The
Hello
Mezco I
there.
had, the Mezco I had was going to donate is found a new home. So I have a couple of figures that are going to equal out the same price as the Mezco. That will be going on another wheel. And I do have Captain Spaulding and Fig Picks donating figures to this. So it'll be a large lot. And then we have EC Collecting. He is donating something. And we have one other person that is kind of keeping on the low with me, wanting to donate something else, and they're going to donate, and that'll be the fifth and final one.
I don't
So
know
you'll
how
have
well my kidneys are, so I mean, I would donate one of them, but yeah, who knows? I
again,
might need them.
and we, we are all, just so you guys know, the five of us that are in participating in the wheels that are running it, we are not going for the prizes. I'm donating outside of my own pocket to the various causes, but I'm not going to contribute to the wheel. So it's all for you guys, for whatever you donate and participate. And if you share, you'll get a chance to win something. If you can't donate, because we do know times are tough and we don't want to dig in your pockets, especially getting close to Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and Christmas. So,
Mhm.
if your donation's $5, awesome, that'll put you on the wheel. If you can't donate, but you could share it on your social media,
Yeah, it
we'll
takes
give you a spot.
all of 5 seconds to copy and paste and share it on your socials, whether it's Twitter,
Yeah, Twitter.
Facebook, Instagram. I mean, whether you're on Mammoth, whatever social medias you are on, or if you can share, even if you just share like in private chats or an email chain or something, getting the word out there is going to be tremendously helpful. Because, like Dre said, times are tough, money is tight. If you can't help us out in the the financial aspect, help us out by sharing this great cause. I mean, that goes a long way. And speaking about sharing, guys, we recently found out that our podcast episodes vanished into the ether. Spotify did a merge with Anchor, and a lot of podcast channels went poof. We were one of them. We've now restored it. So all 15 of our previous episodes are on Spotify and other podcast platforms. So wherever you get your podcasts, if you want to check out those episodes, you got a long car ride. You now can listen to our dulcet tones. Yes, uh, it's dulcet.
Yeah,
Okay,
dulcet.
nerd affiliated. I put in the chat one day. It was I know it's an unusual word, dulcet
Oh,
tones.
it's an SAT
So
word. It's totally an SAT
yeah,
word.
but yeah. So our episodes are up there. So if you want to check it out or you want to share a podcast with someone, please feel free to do so. Thankfully, you guys did something pretty amazing. We reached over 500 views for us being a new channel. So much thanks and appreciation to you guys. And like Dre said, next week is going to be Hispanic Heritage animated films. And of course, the following week is going to be Hispanic Heritage horror films. So
And
you guys
it's a
can take a
bigger.
guess. If you guys want to take a guess at what those films are going to be, you can always take a guess either commenting on this episode or Dre, they can always hit us up on Twitter at the Outer Dim Pod, right?
Yes, they
On
can, and I
Twitter.
check it. I check it every day. It's linked to my phone and to my tablet. So I do get people that message me that are not fans
Yep.
of that don't watch us, or they watch us but they don't subscribe. So I tell them subscribe, and you get to see more, and you'll know when we post videos. I've had recommendations come from people off of
Okay.
there, so you guys can
And
message us there, and I do check it.
and also on Instagram at the Outer Dimensions Podcast. So you guys can always message us either there or on Twitter. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, the Outer Dim, the the Outer Dimensions Podcast on YouTube. Please like, share, and comment. Even if it's a negative comment, if you didn't like our picks, you got some other picks, drop it in the comment section below. Please let us know. Put us in our place. And please check out the Collector Safe Space. In fact, the Collector Safe Space dropped a video or live stream earlier today, right?
No, I didn't drop a live stream. I dropped a video. So for those of you that
Demon
don't
Slayer, I
know,
believe it was.
yes, I did a. This is a long time ago. I did a Demon Slayer manga review of the first, I think, three manga, and it's already gotten it got a lot of views already. I was very surprised because funny how my videos of older do better than my videos I've done more recently. But hey, again, Yukon Phil, I thank him for saying I wanted to see some of your older content. I'd like to see what got Dre kind of
Well,
started.
well,
So
that's a little something that some YouTube channels will do. They'll take or I shouldn't say they're old, but previous videos that have been on the channel for a long time. Maybe they'll put a new title on it, put different tags on it, or even change the thumbnail. And for some reason, the algorithm will react favorable to them. So
I think it helps better because these were also videos that are no longer exist on YouTube because the
That was
channel
your
no
previous
longer.
channel.
These are my previous channel or channels. So, so for the next 7 weeks, because I knew work would get in the way of me trying to upload on Wednesdays, and Wednesdays, um, for the next 2 months are going to be 10 till 6:45. So I won't be able to have an upload during the afternoon. So I wanted to make sure the videos are already set to upload. So you'll have 10 videos already that are coming out, and then on that the next video will be a new series I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a live. I'm going to go live on Friday. I'm going to hopefully have some new comics in hand, as
Oops.
Dave didn't break anything in his house. I hope he didn't break anything.
Well,
Uh,
then my ring light just took a flying leap,
eh,
and not a
and
quantum leap.
not a quantum leap. It definitely fell through the wrong portal. Um, but yeah, I do have a live video. I'm gonna go live Friday briefly. Just talk about some comics and toys. I might be opening up some Kamen Rider toys, and I think that's gonna be it. No, on Monday we have a member spotlight with the Wolfpack toy reviews. They are going to be coming on. Our boy's going to be coming on. Look forward to working with him. He's a great dude. Great, just a great all around person. And I love what he's done. He just celebrated a birthday with his friend, IE Toys. So he posted about that. So I love the stuff that he does about building community and being a West Coast brother. So he's going to be hanging out with us on there. And then Cobweb Collector is going to be coming on October 2nd. And then on the 25th, I have Millennium Workshop. Rex is going to be coming in, another brother. So I definitely love these guys coming in and wanting to talk about the stuff that we're doing. And ironically enough, when Cobb comes on, it'll be the start of the movement for our charity that we're doing.
Yes, sir.
So just that's what I have going on. Dave has been getting a lot of good traction, folks. If you've seen his stuff that he's been doing with his proton pack, you know, he's negative. I'm not. I'm very positive with this. He's doing some cool stuff.
Yeah, doing some weathering applications and some other low cost improvements. If you happen to be a HasLab proton pack owner, I have some of those coming through the pipeline. I'm debating Thursday possibly doing a live stream. We'll see what happens. It's either going to be Thursday or possibly Sunday afternoon. We'll see what. No, not Sunday. I can't. I will be recording at, or at least attempting to record, the Niagara Celtic Festival here in the Western New York region. We have an annual Celtic, basically Irish and Scottish heritage, if you will. So I will be doing doing some recording, hopefully, if everything works out. If not, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I got a few videos coming through the pipeline right now myself. Any last words, Dre?
I'm trying to think. We're doing real, folks. Just I'm gonna try to say this because I think people have been. Hey, two things I was gonna mention. It's funny. KBG comes in for one of those. I'll mention
You
him now.
summoned him.
I know I summoned him mentally without him even knowing it. So KBG, if you haven't gone to Cobain Games gaming channel, he does stuff we do every Friday with him. But he does have gaming streams on Mondays, on Fridays, on Sundays. He does gunpla builds. You need to check him out. He's a great dude, just all around, probably one of the best.
Yeah, he
Best
also
people I
drops
know.
gaming videos, I believe, on Tuesdays and I want to say Thursdays. Or
Yes.
no, Tuesdays and Saturday evenings, I believe he drops videos directly, not live streams, but videos.
So you guys definitely check him out. He's going to be. We're Dave and I are we've. I can I say the tentative date now, Dave, for the next mental health panel?
Yes, go right ahead.
All right. So we are looking at Saturday morning, 11 a.m., October 14th. That is the next mental health panel that Dave and I are looking to do. That's going to be on the Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday streams, Tuesday and Thursday videos. See, look, there you go.
And
So the next
sponsored by W Energy Drink.
So the next mental health panel will be October 14th. It's a Saturday morning, 11 a.m. till noon. Why are we doing it that way? Because we're trying to get everybody set up because we know some Saturdays are jam packed with activities,
Mm-hmm.
meets, family events. But we didn't want to do the evening because I felt like the evening would mess up people's schedules. So we're gonna go for 11 a.m. till noon, and it's gonna be Eastern Standard Time. We do have a lot of people that have reached out to us, and we've had such an amazing amount of positive success, folks, on the mental health panel that I cannot wait to do another one.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that Aaron from KVG wants to come on. He has offered his services in whichever way he can, and that's why I say we
Yeah,
always join him on Fortnite streams on Fridays at 8
he
p.m.
joined us for the last one, and that was a big major hit. We can't thank you guys enough. That stream, I'm at least going to say this much: it's already made a difference, and that's all we can ask. Even if it makes a difference in one person, that's all we can ask for. And anything from this point on is just butter. I mean, it's just topping.
It's
It's
amazing.
just, yeah. I mean, if we help one person, which we know we have, and sitting here, as at least as far as I am able to verify, we had over 86 views on that video and stream.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, we reached out to just under 90 people, and we're hoping, keep this moving forward. And also, the mental health stream is also on our official podcast as well.
Yes, I
So
forgot
we
to mention
we,
that.
we also have that downloaded and part of our episodes on the Outer Dimensions podcast on Spotify. So you can also listen to that as well at any point in time. And also, if anyone out there wants to join us for a future episode, or maybe there's something you want to discuss on a future episode of the mental health streams, you guys can always reach us directly at our socials. Our socials are in the video description below. We have our email contacts, or you can just reach us through the Outer Dimension Podcast at the Outer Dimension Podcast at gmail.com, or on Instagram at the Outer Dimensions Podcast, or at the Outer Dim Pod on Twitter. So
Exactly. So either which way you guys want to get to us, and you guys want to talk on the mental health panel, feel
mhm.
free. Dave and I talk every day, multiple times a day actually. So feel if you get to
You
either
should
one of
see
us,
the
it will.
pictures he sends me. Jeez.
I mean, listen, he asked to see what I poop like. I'm like, hey, here's what my poop looks like. So, but again, folks, we really appreciate you guys. Just from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for what we do here. It's a lot of fun, and there is another. We had Todd on last week. Todd has requested to. I've reached out to him.
Yep.
He is made a request, and we're gonna set it up for his schedule is gonna be getting a little crazy. So we're gonna work with him, but it's gonna be a Star Wars themed episode. He has requested a Star Wars themed episode, so I
Hello
cater to my
there.
guests. So Dave and I are very excited about this, and I cannot wait to make the cheat sheet for it. Like I'm super excited about
Yeah,
it,
I mean, I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm a casual Star Wars fan.
and I'm in the middle of the road.
I haven't read the books. I've seen the movies, I've watched the shows, and growing up watching Star Wars, and so we'll see what Beastie has in store for
Oh,
us.
he's hardcore. So he is like, so you literally going to see three grades of fan. Todd is the the Star Wars fan. I am the middle of the road. I played the video games. I read the comics currently. Obviously, I buy the merch. I'm a fan.
Mhm.
And then you have Dave, who's the casual. So you're going to see three levels of fandom and three levels of movie choices that are we're going to, and maybe even television. We may sprinkle some television. Depends, time allowing. We'll see. So, but I'm going to leave that in there. So thank you guys again for watching us. Thank you guys for participating. Stay right. Just listen. This week is suicide prevention.
Well,
Uh,
this month is
for,
Suicide Prevention
yeah,
Month, but I'm gonna alter that. Every month is Suicide Prevention Month in my book.
exactly 988, folks. Not dial text or dial 988 if you are in need of help. That's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Text that if you do not have a person close by. If you do not have a person you feel you can a confidant, please seek the help. The world is a better place with you in it than without you in it. And coming from a person that two people that could tell you from personal experience what that's like to have those even thoughts go into your head It's a different life. You look at the people that cherish the fact you're here. So I'm glad Dave's here. Dave's glad I'm here. And we're glad that you guys are even here to watch us in those 5, 10 hour long you stay with us. We appreciate you. So again, Dave always tells me, we're gonna exit through this portal. I'm gonna tell you, watch your head on the way out of the portal, folks. Thank you guys for watching. Tune in next week for Hispanic Heritage Month, Part 2, animated films, and we'll see you next week.
Catch you guys on the flip side. Take care.